much money poured into their community anymore. For heterosexual women, not surprisingly, the community consisted mostly of family and religion. And I actually had little trouble dividing this group into what I called founders, finders, and flounderers. The founders were the people who started their own organizations. So for example, a student in a very rural and conservative state said, I would sit out there on campus and I would introduce myself to people and I'd say, hi, I'm the president of the College Gay Straight Alliance. I would just meet tons of people that way, and some of my very closest friends came from that. So here's an example of someone who doesn't have community and just goes and starts it. Most people were not founders, but many people were finders. In fact, if everybody was a founder, we would have many, many different organizations with one member. So a lot of people sort of figured out where to go. They would they would get on the internet and they'd ask about different organizations. They'd join the organization and then quit as soon as they found friends, even if they didn't like what the organization did. And then they would kind of create this series of diverse social networks. I met this friend at this group and this friend at this group. Or they would meet people through friends, coworkers, lovers, etc. The flounderers tended to be isolated. Either they were very closeted, when it's hard to find community. If you're closeted, they felt excluded by the community. Their relationship ended and their lover was the one who was providing or networking them into the community. The community sort of imploded or fell apart in some way, or they just didn't feel this community really was very supportive. And heterosexual women, interestingly, were more likely to be flounderers. These are the women who are connected to family and religion. So it could be that in the year 2010, for whatever reason, family and religion are no longer serving whatever the function is to bring heterosexual women together in some way. When I asked people how the community was there for them during times of stress and hardship, about half of the lesbian and bisexual women said the community was supportive. That was less true of the heterosexual women. The people who had the most amount of support tended to be those in intentional communities like land collectives or lesbian households, those in college, as I mentioned, and also women who are part of ongoing close groups. For example, one woman was part of an SM group that started 30 years ago. None of them left town and none of them had children. They were all in different relationships. They no longer did SM, but they still met every month and saw each other as a huge source of support. So that kind of really close, ongoing group. Women felt less support when the community was not a good fit with what they needed. So one woman was a midwife and said that her source of stress was having a baby, and it was perfect because her community was midwives. Another woman needed money, and she was part of the polyamorous community, so that was not a good fit. That's not a community that is set up for money. And women who had to rely solely on the internet, of course, didn't find it that supportive. Some women were very isolated or closeted, and some women hadn't experienced a lot of stress. If you haven't had much stress, then you don't really need that support. One thing that always fascinated me about my friends who said they really needed, they couldn't believe the community wasn't there for them when times were bad, is I would say, yeah, but if you are saying that your community needs to be there for you, then obviously what you're also saying is you need to be there for everybody else, right? And that has been called the cost of caring. There used to be an assumption that you couldn't have enough friends. The more friends, the better. But it turned out that when researchers first began to study women, that women who had a lot of friends had a lot of stress because their friends called on them all the time. And so they had to take care of everybody. And sure enough, women who did have a lot of community often did say how hard it was to set limits on their time or their finances or phone calls or so on. And the women who had less community, of course, had less cost of caring. Alana Dykewoman wrote a piece in the book, Lesbian Communities, that I edited with Penny, who's here. And she has a wonderful sort of analogy of, wouldn't it be nice if lesbian communities could provide what religious organizations provide? And that is a location, a large group of people with various resources, a structure that makes it easy for those in need to be visible or get help, and for those providing services not to carry the burden alone. So wouldn't it be nice if we had those set up, if we had that set up? Bisexual women in this study generally mentioned a lack of bisexual organizations, while at the same time feeling excluded from the lesbian organizations. And so I would ask, well, why don't you start a bisexual group? And what women would say is, well, first of all, there aren't a lot of women who identify as bisexual. You know, again, the difficulty of categories and labels. And secondly, the lesbian community is so rejecting of people who are bisexual that if I come out as a bisexual woman who starts a bisexual organization, then I may be excluded by the lesbian community. Right now I'm kind of trying to pass, and so I don't want to do that. You know, I sort of regretted putting the word queer in the title of this talk because there's still so little really good research on what queer really means to many people, particularly young people who are using this word all the time. Most of my students identify as queer. I assume a lot of students here do too. And yet people use this term in different ways. So there are people who truly are sort of influenced by queer theory, or the idea that queer means that we are really not categorizing, not only not categorizing sexuality, but not categorizing gender. So queer is more of an amorphous term. Anybody who's not non-heterosexual in a traditional way. But then there's people who I think just use queer as a synonym